So, what are we talking about today?
Oh, I know. Lockdown babies?
Yeah, the pandemic, lockdown, COVID, you know, all that fun topics.
Yeah.
We can make it fun.
Yeah.
This episode is called Lockdown Babies. Welcome back to the imaginary pillow teepee.
Ooh, another fun one.
Does that make sense? You know, like those like kids play teepee things.
Yeah.
You often see them just like rent and things for weddings.
Yeah, you do, yeah.
We have a big wooden teepee, but I wouldn't say that's not what we're going for.
Not cosy.
No, you know, like an indoor little shelter where you
Yeah.
pull up a cover and a cushion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our little one is asleep. Which is actually a lie. She's actually out at nursery at the moment.
Woohoo!
But, you know, again, pretend. A lot of this is pretend. And so we can spend some time chatting about our experiences of parenting, have a bit of fun, and relax as we attempt something creative. So whether you have a baby, toddler, one child or more, you're very welcome. Pull up a cushion in the imaginary teepee. Yeah. I'm Elliot, the one from the south.
And I'm Emma, the one from the north. Whoop, whoop!
Emma's in a very passionate mood today.
I'm really energetic this morning. Let's see if it'll last the rest of the day.
Yeah, so I grew up in the south but have moved up north and...
To the better place you have moved.
Yeah, I have to agree. I still retain traits of my southern upbringing.
You
but
do.
They can't be helped.
It can't be helped. What can you do?
So if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll already have an idea of what craft we're doing today. But if you're listening somewhere else, then what craft are we doing, Emma? I've done this thing again. I've made the mistake. I've asked Emma and she has no idea.
So he said, if you're listening, you won't know what it is. I'm going to be like, and if you're Emma, you also will not know what the craft is.
To be fair, this is the first time where we've got ahead of ourselves. So I don't really know what it is either.
Oh, it's a surprise craft.
I've started doing some origami, which I think is what it's going to be. But that's only half done because I was tired and it was not going well. I was in a bad mood.
He was getting a bit frustrated.
Yeah.
I remember putting away stuff and I was like, oh, can I throw this stuff? Can Lily play with this stuff or throw away? He's like, no, I haven't finished. I was like,
so,
okay.
I've still got that to complete. So we'll see how that goes. Ding, beep, beep, beep. It's time for our parenting achievement. I'm always tempted to say parenting achievement of the week, but that's not quite what we're going for.
I always want to say that as well.
It's just, you know, that level that you've reached in parenting of a story where something's not gone quite right. And it's an achievement that you've reached as a parent. So have you got one to share, Emma?
I do. It links into multiple achievements, technically. But firstly, it's partly an achievement because Lily will now get dressed. The downside to that is that she has a very, let's say, distinctive sense of style and you can't deter her. So for the past maybe 3 or 4 times she's been at nursery, she will wear a shower cap. And not just that, the nursery have told us she doesn't take it off the whole day.
She does wear some odd outfits, doesn't she? But I think that does top it all, like sending her to nursery and she's wearing a little shower cap.
But it was really funny. I was waiting outside to pick her up. The nursery manager came out because she's got a little dog. And she was like giving it a bit of a walk. And then we started talking to her. Oh, your daughter's the one that wears a shower cap. And I was like, yeah, nice to be known as that, I guess. Makes us stand out. Clearly no other child has come in a shower cap.
Yeah. Not quite as amusing, but this morning she went into nursery with her trousers on inside out. Nothing you can really do about it because she's quite opinionated.
And adamant she's right. She's like, no, I wanted it to look like this. And you're like, did you? Are you sure you wanted that look? And she's like, yeah. It's like when she puts her shoes on the wrong feet and she's like, no, I don't want your help. This is what I want. And I'm like, do you though? And then we'll be walking somewhere and she'll go, oh, no, shoes. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, have you just realised? Or did you you're just so stubborn that you didn't want me to help. You only wanted to rectify the situation once we got out. And you were like, oh no, now it's uncomfortable. I better pretend I've just realised I've put my shoes on the wrong feet.
The other achievement to share from me this time. So the achievement of having a daughter who's very into fashion is my link with outfits. And that recently she's been very into wearing nail varnish.
Oh, very.
And insisting other people wear it. And of course, being a father to a daughter, she insists that I wear it. So for the last couple of days, I've been wearing pink nail varnish that Lily did on my hands.
But only on one hand.
Yes, only on one hand. Only on like certain, and it's been done by a toddler, so it's really not very good. But we didn't have any nail varnish remover in the house.
We'd run out because she's done nails so often recently.
Yeah. So that's been my fun achievement, walking around just in life with looking a bit strange.
It's more funny. I feel like if you had all your nails done, it could just be a choice. Because it's like one hand done badly, it's weirder. Do you know what I mean?
True. So do share with us if you've got a parenting achievement on a similar vein, and do you have a toddler that's worn some odd outfits somewhere, or have you been made to wear strange things because the child's insisted it, or whatever achievement you've had as a parent, do let us know. You can get in touch with us either over on YouTube and drop a comment in the comments.
In the comment section.
That's the place to do it. Or, message us on Instagram or join in our community on Facebook. All that stuff. Lockdown babies.
Is that your opening?
I don't. We haven't really worked out how we're transitioning into this bit. We'll make it up as we go along. We could try some different stuff out. Maybe that's what I'll do.
Okay.
Lockdown babies.
I don't know if I like this trying of stuff out.
Oh, okay.
let's just get into the topic, shall we?
Right. Where do we start? It'll probably vary quite a lot, people's experiences, depending on what age children you had during lockdown and the pandemic and all that stuff. And it was over multiple years, so it covers quite a big
chunk of time
and things. I suppose a lot of what I hear in the media and just stories is often about people homeschooling and like older kids and like the impact on like education and stuff. But there's a whole different thing that I've not really heard many people talk about, which is the kind of having a baby during lockdown, or having toddlers and preschool age children during the pandemic, or even having children kind of just after the pandemic, and how that's, how things have changed or how it's different. So for us, we had Lily just at the end of kind of the lockdowns, the second lockdown period.
Second lockdown. We
had basically a lockdown pregnancy.
Yeah.
And then things began to open up as we had
and just
Lily.
after she was born, the hospital was still quite strict with like visiting times and how long people could stay. That was all still, and we still had to do tests. Well, I had to do a test before I went and check I didn't have COVID.
So we probably got off lightly in a way.
Although I'd say it was difficult pregnancy in lockdown, as in it was a blessing in that I didn't have to go out to many things. So when I felt really sick, it was quite easy to stay at home and look after yourself. There was a lot less demand of that kind of thing.
I think with everything with the pandemic, it seems to be like a double-edged sword in terms of there were negatives, but also there were like positives that emerged from it as well. And talking to other people as well, that definitely seems to be a theme that whilst it wasn't the best times, obviously, there were things that kind of worked quite well. And one of those for us was being pregnant in a strict lockdown meant that we didn't have to see people. So it meant we could keep your pregnancy quiet for a lot longer.
A lot longer than we would have done.
Which we were pleased about because it's something we wanted to do, but weren't quite sure how we would do it. Like you said, you didn't have to worry about not going places and there was an excuse,
I could be like, I just can't go. I can't go because I'm pregnant.
Exactly.
So you don't have to explain yourself all the time.
Yeah. But then the flip side of that was you were kind of more worried about catching COVID.
Definitely.
because you were pregnant.
Yeah. But it was also quite lonely.
Mm.
Like, it's great technology in that I could talk to my sisters every day, but I really, especially because Becky, my sister in France, she was pregnant at the same time, like we had an overlap. And that would have been really nice to have seen each other. And I felt like we kind of missed out on that because obviously nobody could travel. No one could get anywhere. And then even when she had her youngest, Isaac, we didn't get a meeting for a very long time. So
the downside of your family in particular being quite spread out and all your sisters being quite far away meant you couldn't really get to them very easily.
No.
I mean, I feel like we've jumped into pregnancy, but it's actually quite an interesting story that before that, we had a lockdown wedding. So we got married literally just before we had Lily. You know, we're those typical Christians who got married and then immediately had a baby.
Pregnant.
We didn't buck the trend there.
We bucked the trend in my family, though. We actually got married before we got pregnant.
True.
My family, we normally do it the other way. We normally have our babies first and then we get married.
So we'd intended to get married in April 2020. And of course, we were in lockdown then, so we had to cancel our wedding. It just didn't happen. Everything that we'd planned for the past couple of years.
Nothing.
Nothing at all. So we were going to go to Scotland and have an outdoor wedding.
Lockside wedding.
And instead it felt like we were waiting for ages because lockdown went on a long time. But actually it was about 4 months we were delayed by. And at the first opportunity, we got up there, relaxed the rules. I mean, there's a whole story around trying to work out whether the rules permitted us to get married or not.
Whether we were allowed to or not.
The complication because we were getting married in Scotland.
And they had different rules.
We had to follow the Scottish rules. But then it was like, well, are we allowed to travel to Scotland based on the English rules? So, you know, I've got a whole vlog about it if you're particularly interested in our whole, wedding story. But that's a whole nother topic.
A whole nother bundle.
Yeah. But in the end, we had a proper lockdown wedding where there were only 6 of us plus, or there 8 of us.
There were 8 of us, but technically your dad was the minister.
Yes, we were allowed 6 guests, I think, or something like that. And we all had to be socially distanced. We were outside, and we had it on the side of a loch in Scotland.
We did. So not totally dissimilar to what we'd planned, other than, there being nobody there.
Yeah, no guests, no food, no pie. Although we did go back.
We had a picnic.
And had a little picnic and a little...
And people were lovely. I just want to say, like, they were all so nice to us, everyone we saw, like, because I was wandering around in a wedding dress, and people were just... I think because people that have many things to celebrate, people were so friendly and like, oh, we really hope you enjoy your day.
Well, we've got distracted. I mean, it's an interesting story, but we're meant to be talking about children and babies, which came after that.
Yeah.
So then that's when we had our pregnancy during lockdown.
Mm-hmm. I think the start of it was quite easy in lockdown. I mean, it was odd. Once again, it's not odd for me because I've not had a pregnancy outside of lockdown. So to me, this was all the first time for everything. So I didn't know that was odd.
We get very confused now about what's normal in...
So like the first appointment I had was just a phone call. And I don't know if that's standard or if that was a lockdown thing. And they basically just ask you loads of questions. And,
I think we've touched on this before, but because of all the regulations, it meant that I couldn't come to
any of the first few appointments.
And the first scan I didn't see, which is a shame. And there's other people obviously have had a lot more, a lot stricter experiences and challenges around not even being allowed to be there for the birth, which is crazy.
One of my friends, their husband wasn't allowed in the room.
Yeah, that's really hard. Stuff had relaxed quite a lot by the time we got to, giving birth. And so I could be there and that was fine.
I found it really amusing that, sorry, this is a side point, that I had to have like a swab to check if I got COVID before we went into the hospital because I was being induced. Elliot didn't. And I was like, but...
and it was very strange, wasn't it?
Like, probably if I'm doesn't have it, he won't have it. But I wanted to be like, well...
we're both going to be in the hospital.
Both going to be in there
for
an awful
extended
long
period.
time.
Like, why wasn't I tested?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mind. It just in my head, it made no sense why we weren't both tested. But,
Yeah.
you know, at least not complaining. He didn't want a thing shoved up his nose.
Yeah, I hated the test. I'm sure a lot of people did, but you coped a lot better with
Yeah,
them than
I
I
didn't
did. Like a lot of things where the NHS and all sorts of places were just following the rules they were given,
Yeah, yeah.
and the rules didn't really make any sense.
No, it's true.
So the rules were that you had to have a test, but for some reason people accompanying you didn't, and
Yeah.
they didn't question that. That's just what happened. Bizarre. So once Lily was born, things were beginning to get back to normal.
Yeah.
But still, there was less stuff running. And
There was nothing really running.
things were, had to be follow guidance and stuff. So it wasn't quite as normal.
What is that? One of our health, what do you call them? Not healthcare, health visitor?
Yeah.
Community midwife? Can't remember which one it was. One of those things was just virtual, where they looked at, I think it was on the computer or a phone.
Yeah, I think we had like a WhatsApp call.
Yeah,
with
WhatsApp call, that was
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
And I remember finding it really funny because they were like, we'd actually managed to weigh Lily because I'd stood on a scale with her and then weighed myself, so we'd worked it out. But I found it really funny. They were like, oh, well, we don't have to put her weight down, but does she feel heavier? And in my head, I found that really funny. I was like, well, this is really scientific. And I was like, oh, don't worry. We worked out how to do it. And they were like, oh, great idea. Well done. But it just amused me because I was like, there's certain stuff that I think is probably better to do over in person. Because obviously the poor woman, she had no way of going, not everyone will have thought how to weigh them or might not have scales. She was just let's count that as a thing if they feel heavier.
I love that. I'd completely forgotten, but yeah, do they feel heavier?
Yeah,
I mean, sure.
it just
What
amused
a
me.
measure of
But I mean, it wasn't her fault. She was doing it virtually.
Yeah.
How would you measure? Just amused me because I was like, I'm someone I know the power of the mind, in that I'm like I could easily convince myself of anything.
Yeah.
So to me, because you've said that, she probably will.
I think for a lot of people, and it will be for those who had children slightly earlier than us, so within the kind of main scope of the COVID
Lockdown,
years, there was a real sense of being cut off and isolated and, groups not running. And we experienced a little bit of that with, what they called those pre-birth groups.
Prenatal?
Those things. None of them were running.
None of them were
So
running.
we watched some YouTube videos.
Yeah,
But
they did, in their defense, they sent us these YouTube videos to watch. And they were very informative. But I would have liked to have gone, I mean, let's be honest, in the end, I had a C-section anyway after a long labour. So I don't know if any of the techniques would have helped. But I would have liked the idea of going there and meeting people, and I think that would have been nice.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? A lot of it was not necessarily to do with the baby as such. Those groups, even the groups when you have a baby that's growing.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it is to
make
socialize
friends,
the baby and development stuff. Whatever type of group it is you're going to. But a lot of it's about mums getting together and not
meeting
feeling
other
isolated.
people.
Yeah, I don't feel like I ever experienced that because I'm quite happy by myself.
Yeah.
I never got lonely, particularly in lockdown or
Well, you're quite introverted and you're quite happy just talking to me.
just quite happy, just being at home,
I mean, that's nice.
People were amazed during your pregnancy when we'd be like, well, Emma has been worried about catching COVID and she's pregnant and whatever. You haven't left the house in 6 months.
Yeah. I remember
And they were like, what?
I put a thing on it's the first time I left the house. I'm posting a letter or something. And somebody put a comment underneath my Facebook being really? Question mark. And I was like, yeah. But obviously they didn't know I was pregnant either. So to them, I'd just been sat in my house for no reason.
Yeah.
Just
I mean, we have a big garden. So
we do have a big garden.
we could go out in that. It's not like we'd literally been...
Well, honestly, we had
indoors.
quite a nice summer.
It was that
we
2020
painted
summer.
the shed.
It was quite...
We got a few
sunny.
bits done.
Yeah.
It's been better than this summer, let's face it. Been a bit of a washout.
I mean, we were fortunate that we had, we just moved into our house now, which is quite a nice space, and we had quite a big garden. So we were fortunate to have quite a good indoor space that we could
So the place we were living before was very, very rural. So I would have felt a lot more isolated, I think. Even though I know I didn't really go out, I think knowing how rural you are would have made me feel more isolated.
Yeah.
Whereas knowing here I could walk to the hospital,
Yeah.
it was a lot easier.
Yeah. You can get stuff delivered.
Yeah.
You know, where we lived before was very rural. You couldn't really even do that.
No. But going back to what you're saying about older kids, I think in some ways it was like, for us, it wasn't too bad. And it was hard in pregnancy, but he was allowed to the next scan and some more appointments, which was nice. And I think I wasn't as worried, as in I was not worried about the development of my child. But I think a lot of people, that was a big concern for them. I remember my sister in France. I remember like when he was on the phone, he'd pretend to be an adult. And I remember I found it really upsetting that when he pretended to be an adult, he'd put his hand over his mouth because he thought like adults wear masks. That's what they do. And I don't know why I found it that upsetting, but I think it really hit home how much he'd been affected in his little world that just adults wear masks. That's what you do when you become an adult. That was really weird. And I remember my other nephew in Plymouth, his mum said he had like a map of Britain. And one day he said, there's something wrong with my map. And she was going, what is it? And he said, well, it didn't have the virus all over it. Because obviously on the news, you see the big things of the viruses here, here, and here. And he was like, well, it should have that on it. And his mum had to explain, like, no, not all maps have viruses on. Like, you don't show people... normally it's just a normal map.
Yeah.
But to him, the only maps he'd seen had a thing of the viruses here. This is the rules here. So he thought, oh, it needs to have that on it because my map doesn't have that. Like it was weird things like that where a lot of children, it became just so normal.
Yeah. It's like Lily really didn't like masks. She'd try to pull them off your face.
She did, yeah.
And like a lot of friends and strangers would try and smile at Lily, but obviously Lily couldn't see their face.
Yeah.
So she'd be really wary of everyone. There's lots of stories in there that are kind of funny, but also really sad.
Yeah. like it's a funny thing for the child to say or do, but it's really like, oh, that's sad. They like had to think like that.
Yeah. So those with like kind of toddlers and older children going through those years were, you know, the people we've talked to and friends, definitely there's a sense of them being very aware of what's going on and how they're dealing with it.
And almost more aware than sometimes they thought they were.
So Lily really had no clue what was going on. And now that she's at a point where she's very aware, we've kind of come out of the whole... You can get more involved with our Don't Wake the Baby community in the YouTube comments or over on our Instagram, both of which are at don'twakethebaby_podcast. The aim of this little podcast is to connect with other parents out there. So we'd love to hear from you if you're listening. If you want to talk with us or other listeners directly, you can link up with people around Yorkshire and beyond. You can join our Facebook group chat, which is on Facebook. You know,
Self-explanatory.
I'm doing really well with words today. And remember to stay tuned till the end to hear some parenting tips from some of our listeners. And if you have any of your own tips or comments or thoughts, do send them to us and we can share them and chat about them on the next episode. You know, send us a message on Instagram or however you want to get in contact with us.
By pigeon.
By pigeon. Yeah, preferably not by pigeon. You know, not a good option.
Not a good way, no.
No. You can find all the links to the social media and our web page and everything else in the description below or in the show notes, depending how or where you're listening or watching this. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and click some of the buttons. You know, clickety click all the good stuff. Give us your feedback, good or bad. You know, it's all good, and all that stuff. You know how the internet works. It's
if you found us, you know what you're doing.
Yeah. But basically, we'd love to include more parents in the conversation, and by doing all that sort of stuff, you can help us reach more people, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
So you were saying we've touched on a little bit of the negative stuff, but not really.
Not going into the more positive
There are
aspects.
some things that were kind of a positive in the lockdown period.
I was also really impressed. One of our friends was saying, like with the COVID test, to get their child to like think it was fun to take them. Did she call them nose ticklers? But I thought it was ingenious. Like such a clever way of making a fun activity so that they'd laugh when they did it, to be like, oh, isn't it funny? It's tickling your nose. I loved that as an idea. So if there's ever a future time we need it, I'm stealing that. And a lot of people said how their children, like if they were closer in ages, got a lot closer bonded by being stuck together all the time and playing together, and that creates better bonds than, you know, going off to separate nurseries and things.
It's probably true for adults as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's one of those like traumatic experiences which bring people closer together.
I think the thing is, it either made or broke relationships.
There you go.
Because I think people were like, oh, I actually love spending every waking minute with this person, or oh no, I actually find this person very annoying.
I wonder if people who have, you know, multiple children out there, siblings who it did that, where it maybe didn't bring them together, but actually they really struggled to spend all their time, you know,
hanging out together.
I mean, you come from a family where you've got lots of siblings.
Yeah.
But you all got on really well, really.
We
didn't
did all
you?
get on very well,
You had a really good relationship, which is good. It's not always the case.
No, it's
good.
true. Yeah, I think because we lived very rurally, it was like lockdown most of the time. Like, we didn't go out because we had a whole farm to run around. So, most of the time we only saw each other.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is what I think, it didn't affect us too badly because you grew up very rural where you couldn't walk anywhere.
Yeah, no.
Your mum didn't do much driving. Your dad was always busy. So you were stuck on your farm a lot of the time. And I'm just very, you know, introverted and happy in my aloneness. So we were both quite kind of just happy together.
I can see if you're a very, very sociable person and very hard. But then also my sister, well, both my sisters, like they were saying, it was actually nice to actually have time to be at home with the kids and see them every day and like do projects and, you know, kind of get creative in doing all that stuff. Because often you don't get that quality time.
It's true.
Which is quite nice for them.
Yeah, we were saying it's like I think it varies depending on, you know, your circumstances and who you are. But for some people, there was an opportunity, you know, maybe work was quieter, maybe you were on furlough, maybe you had flexible hours, which meant you could spend a lot of time with your children and do things that you wouldn't normally have capacity to do because life had become a lot simpler.
Yeah. Much simpler in some ways.
But then for some people, the opposite was true.
Yeah.
Where
if you're a key worker, you've got to be out.
Yeah.
Be there with your
maybe
child.
if you're on a different type of job where you don't have the ability to work from home, you couldn't have flexible hours or whatever it might be. I mean, we were probably somewhere in the middle in that we do work from home. We're very flexible. We're very fortunate. We could spend a lot of time looking after you in pregnancy and then Lily in the early days. The issue was that because I work in digital, my work suddenly became really busy because everyone was desperately trying to do digital stuff because you couldn't meet in person.
And a lot of churches were just trying to get online.
Yeah. And your work was quite busy as well, wasn't it?
Because obviously, once again, the video game industry just blew up because everybody was at home.
Yeah. So both our works were very busy, which... and
it was good for my industry did really well off it all.
My career kind of progression, as it were, has done really well out of it. Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear from people about kind of what side of the coin you predominantly fell on, whether you found there was benefits for your children in that you could do more stuff with them, that they had more one-on-one time with you as parents, or maybe you really struggled with childcare and being able to work and have kids at home.
It's like my sister Laura, she's a mental health nurse, and she was full on for her. So she ended up sending my nephews up north to stay with my mum and dad for a bit, just because her work was so busy. And she also had to help out on like the general wards because they didn't have nurses. So it wasn't just like mental health. She's also done COVID. In the end, she was like, didn't see her children for about 3 weeks or something because she was like, I have no capacity actually to look after them at home right now. And I think they did have a thing in schools once they started going back, whereas if you were a key worker, your children got to go back first. So that helped nearer the time. But for a certain period, she was like, I have no capacity to look after my children because they're at home, because I have to work and my work's busier than ever. So I think it really depends on your circumstance and your job if it was going to be a positive or negative kind of experience.
And so because of a lot of that, there's been a lot of discrepancy about child development.
Yeah.
Like for those of us who had children that were kind of, learning to become little humans during that time frame, some people really thrived and progressed
very quickly,
very much quicker than they might have otherwise because of
one-on-one time
all sorts of things. And others, it would be the opposite, where a lack of having nursery and groups and things to go to, socializing,
like structure.
I've heard lots of stories of children that they take a lot of warming up to people because they're not used to meeting lots of new people. They're only used to, they're very clingy with their parents. And I do wonder whether some of Lily's clinginess, because she's a very clingy child, originates from
not seeing many people early on. I mean, I'll be honest though, I was a very clingy child, so I don't know if it's just that she's clingy like I was. I
mean, there's other things like her hatred of traveling.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's definitely.
Because we didn't travel at all. When you were pregnant.
Well, even because we never got in the car very much when I was pregnant because I could walk to the hospital. I remember even going in the car when I was pregnant. She would move about a lot, but not in a good way. Like, she was really kind of, do not like this moving. Why are we moving? And I don't know if there's nobody's done a study, I don't think. But it may be that even because she hadn't been in a car from that point, it's just a very weird experience for her because she was like, well, I've never...
To us, it feels
like
there's a correlation between very limited travel and going out and about and stuff in the early days, and therefore Lily has become accustomed to it, and now she seems to really dislike travelling.
Yes, but only in a car.
Like
she quite likes trains.
True.
I mean, we won't talk about planes.
I mean, most modes of transport she doesn't like. I mean, trains work quite well.
And buses.
Yeah, we've not done a long bus ride.
No,
but
that's true.
It's true. Yeah. Anyway, we're getting distracted again. This little show is in partnership with the Kairos movement, which is a project of the Methodist Church, which we're a part of. Obviously, we're Christians and Methodists, but we're not really here to ask you to come to church or even really become members of the Kairos movement. That's not the aim at all.
Or become a Christian.
Yeah, we're just here doing something we love and sharing our experiences. Kairos provides support and partnership to a range of people like us, really, who are running groups and projects and offering outreachy type things around Yorkshire. It's a network of people supporting each other and giving time to their local community. It's a kind of rich tapestry of different stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to explain. I never know whether we're doing a good job of it. There's lots of, pick a mix range of things you could get involved with if you so wanted, that might interest you. Some are fun, some discussions, some kind of spiritual, and some are just like our podcast that we're doing.
Yeah. I would say they do a lot more like helping community things than a lot of other things do, which I think is quite it's more of a good meaning of being a Christian than just saying it.
You can find out more about our podcast and the people we're connected to and all that stuff, all our links and everything on our webpage. The links down below or in the show notes or wherever you're
looking at, they'll be somewhere.
Or if you can't be bothered, it's www.kairosmovement.org.uk/don't wake the baby.
Thought of a fun thing?
Yeah, we like fun things.
Say your worst thing and then best thing about the pandemic.
Ooh. Well, best thing was we had a baby.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
Like as an outcome of the whole experience. I mean, we got married and had a baby within the pandemic years, so they're quite a memorable kind of thing for us.
I didn't even think about them.
I mean, it's quite a broad.
It's a broad
thing.
subject
I think you were
area.
thinking of like more specific example.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking more kind of like, oh, you really liked alone time, or you really liked, But no, it's a good point.
I really liked Christmas 2020, I think it was. You were in the early stages of pregnancy and we were in strict lockdown, so we weren't allowed to go see anyone.
It was the best Christmas. Honestly.
I mean, I know a lot of people were really annoyed because I think it was the time where Christmas was like cancelled just a few days before.
Yeah.
But it meant we didn't have to go see anyone and like...
Well, we hadn't planned to do anything anyway.
We wanted it as an excuse to say, this is our first year married, we want to spend it by ourselves and not travel around.
We've like in a new home and like just married. It was just so much less stressful. And
what I remember most was just several weeks of drinking hot chocolates and playing video games.
Yeah, it was lovely. And like Christmas dinner was just for us.
Yeah.
It was so much less stress.
It's one of those things where we did absolutely nothing really, but it feels really not time well spent, particularly because it came just before we had a child.
Yeah.
And like life has completely changed since then. Like we will never get the freedom to be those people who were just slobs on the sofa
playing video games
in pajamas all day. Just wow.
That was great.
Yeah. What about you?
You haven't said your worst thing as well.
Well, I'm thinking.
Okay. Sorry. I mean, now I have to say getting married and having Lily were the best things. And I was thinking, well, it gave me a lot of time to actually do painting and crafting. And like, I normally have no time to do those things. And it was actually nice to have time, which sounds stupid, but time to yourself where you just sit. And we used to sit together actually and just sit like, and both do like a little painting each or that was nice. I think my worst thing was going to appointments by myself. Because I was always really worried they'd say something like, we can't hear a heartbeat, something's gone wrong, and I'd be completely alone. And also would have to relay that news. I'm quite British. I try not to show too much emotion. So I think it would have been very hard for me to react to what they were saying.
I think that was probably the same for me in terms of the worst bit being not being able to come to appointments and the first scan and things like that.
And I tried to like record things for him. I remember
like the heartbeats I never got to hear.
I like recorded on my phone so he could hear it.
Yeah.
And
let us know what your best and worst experiences of lockdown were, particularly in relation to children and whether you had a baby, had toddlers, preschool children, or do you think things have changed now at all? Is it raising children in a post-pandemic world any different to it was like 2019 and before?
I think in positive ways. I think people are much better about the don't touch other people's children rule.
I was thinking that. Because we had lots of scenarios, which is strange, because again, we're in like the pandemic years where like strangers would just come up and touch your baby and you're like, what are you doing?
It was like in a
You've
bathroom
got to ask.
And this woman just came over and stroked her face and I was like, okay. Right.
Don't do that.
Yeah, like at least ask or, but yeah, I think people are much more like, I'll ask the child
people
or the
parent. People are aware
of
being touchy-feely and...
I also think people give each other a much bigger break as parents. Like, we're a lot more sympathetic and we're a lot more like, no, take time. I think we're just more mental health aware.
I think maybe also, I mean, particularly around things like homeschooling, which is slightly older children, but maybe if you've got multiple children, you had that experience as well.
Yeah.
Where that was quite prominent in like the news and people's awareness. And so, it feels like
I think it's more of a normal thing if people do homeschool
these days about how hard it is being parents.
Yeah,
maybe.
True.
Hopefully.
Also, people appreciate, I think, teachers a lot more.
Yeah.
Because they realise how hard it is to keep your child's focus on something and try and teach them and, all that stuff.
We've had quite a few comments from listeners and friends about this whole topic. We've not been able to mention them all, which is a shame. But, do let us know what you've experienced, what you've learned, the challenges, the joys, all that stuff. It would be really interesting to hear. Again, we've kind of skirted around the whole topic and probably not done it justice. But, that's kind of the way we do things here.
We try and dive deep, and I just go on a tangent a lot.
We're approaching the end of this episode of the podcast, and I can't tell you about the craft because I haven't filmed it yet.
It's going to be a surprise.
It's a surprise for all of us if you're watching on YouTube. A parenting tip from a listener. Let's see. We have actually got one, but I need to find it. So a comment and piece of advice from a listener out there, a fellow parent. They say their number one piece of advice is to ignore the pressure to enjoy every moment because some of it is really hard and rubbish. And it's okay not to enjoy the hard bits, as long as you appreciate the good ones. So the best advice this person was ever given is that kids will do all the same things, but they do them at different times. So let them go at their own pace and don't panic if they're not hitting, every milestone at exactly the same moment or when an app tells you they should. I think that's really good. I used to get frustrated people, when Lily was a baby being like, oh, it flies by, appreciate this time now you've got with her. And I'm like, it's terrible. It's really hard. I cannot wait for things to get better.
I think also because it does go fast, but also not in a mean way. The really nice bits are kind of moments where they're sleeping on you and it's nice and snuggly, but the majority of it's a lot of hard work, like trying to juggle a lot of things or, illnesses, like now they're throwing up.
Yeah.
And I think because we were first-time parents, you're a lot more worried. The second time round, it'll probably be a lot simpler because you won't be as kind of, oh no, they've got a rash, what do we do? Oh no, there's something else wrong, what do we do?
Well, thanks for joining us this evening in the pillow teepee. Is that what I said?
Pillow teepee.
Is that what I said at the beginning?
Yeah.
Time to get back to your whatever you were doing before, your work, sleep, or listen to another episode of our podcast. You could always do that.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
We've got quite a few of them now.
Yeah. Anyway, God bless, sleep well, and don't wake the baby.